So, you don't know what version of blueeyes to play. I'm here to help you with that. Mazmafet, nice to meet you. Today we're going to be talking about 3 different versions of blueeyes that you can play, not including Primite, because I wanted to talk about versions of the deck that are less played and a little more budget friendly for newer players. So we're going to go over the Buster Blader variant, the Centurion variant, as well as the Bystial variant. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get us into this because this video is going to be kind of long. I'm going to segment the video so that you guys can kind of skip the parts that you care about. Now, starting off with monsters, I'm running 2 Blue-Eyes White Dragon. This is the Buster Blader version. 1 Blue-Eyes Jet, 3 Maiden, 3 Sage with Eyes of Blue, and for the Buster Blader lineup, I'm running 1 Buster Blader Destruction Swordsman. This is the one true brick of the deck, but there is a way to do the entire combo even if you open this, and I will showcase that later. 3 Buster Whelp, as well as 1 Destruction Sword. Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. You can safely cut this and run other non-engine or do whatever you want. The reason I am running this is because I like having something to search off of Buster Whelp if I open, like, say, Memories or like Buster Blader itself, rather than having to go for the prologue, which is going to be dead. Plus, dumping this off of the Link 2 is very important for those combos where you do see the Buster Blader in your hand. I'm running 1 Magnemite, 1 Druid's Worm, 1 Boldrake. I think these are self-explanatory. Bystials are just very good right now. 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Droll Lockbird, 3 Effect Veiler, 3 Wishes for Eyes of Blue, 1 Roar, 1 Mausoleum, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 1 Called By, as well as 3 Imperm, a Majesty of the White Dragons, a True Light, a Prologue, and a Destruction Sword Memories. Moving on to the extra deck, I'm running a Big Spirit Dragon, the Ultimate Spirit Dragon, a Crimson Dragon, a Stardust Cipher Divine Dragon, 3 Normal Spirit Dragon, 1 Lightstorm Dragon, 1 Hot Red Dragon, 1 Buster Dragon, the Buster Blader Fusion, of course, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Heavenly Spheres, 1 Protector Whelp, as well as 2 Spirit with Eyes of Blue. Now, in this extra deck, this is really only important if you are either feeling greedy and you want the extra deck lock, or if you open the Buster Blader. The Spheres, is not super important in this version of the deck, and you can honestly just cut this for something else like a Typhon or an IP or a Anima, the Link 1, just whatever you want. I very rarely make this. The only time I really ever make this is if I have a Bystial like Magnemite, and or I'm Dragon Locked. Those are really the only times I make it. So, with all of that said, I'm going to show you guys the normal combo. Is you go normal Sage. Sage is going to either search for your Maiden or search for your Whelp. If you are afraid of Nib, search Whelp. If you are not afraid of Nib, search Maiden. If you are trying to play against a deck that hard loses to the Buster Lock, search Whelp. If you have Maiden, search Whelp. If you have Whelp, search Maiden, so on and so forth. So here, obviously, you just go into the Link 1. Link 1 grabs the Mausoleum. Mausoleum to dump the Blue-Eyes White Dragon. You go Tribute, summon Blue-Eyes White Dragon. Normal summon your Whelp. Whelp is going to search for your Prologue. And then from here, you can go into either Spirit Dragon, or you can go into Spheres, or you can go into your SP Little Knight if you want to. SP will help you dodge Nib a little better, to be honest. But typically you want to have another monster on board with it, if you're going to make it. So from here you have your Prologue and you have your SP, or it can just be a Spirit Dragon. I tend to go into Spirit Dragon just so I can tag it out and go into Ultimate Spirit, so that I have a negate to deal with whatever might out the Buster Lock. But you don't have to do that, it's kind of just whatever you feel like is best against the matchup you're playing against. Now, let's say, for example, you open the Buster Blader. Now, if you open the Buster Blader, you might think to yourself, oh, my life sucks. I can't use Prologue anymore. Well, let me show you how incorrect you would be, because this works as long as you just have any starter and or extenders. So, for example, if you open Buster Blader with Whelp and Roar, you're fine. If you open Buster Blader with Wishes, you're fine. If you open Buster Blader with Sage or Maiden, you are fine. And I'm going to show you why. Wishes obviously branches into any of your level 1 light tuners, which are these. So I don't really have to explain anything here. Roar with Whelp allows you to put 2 bodies on the board to make the Whelp Link 2, which is going to get you out of your rough spot. But the way that I'm going to showcase this to you is just with Sage, because it is the easiest way to show you. With normal Sage is obviously going to grab Whelp, and there's a reason we're doing this, because you might think, oh, why'd you grab Whelp if you already have the Buster Blader in hand? Well, Whelp is just going to get you memories, which you're going to use at this card. You can also grab Maiden here, if you want to, because going Maiden effect to place the True Light, and then True Light to grab the Wishes, gets you the Whelp anyway. However, when you're placing the True Light, you have to understand, if your opponent sends this to the graveyard while your Buster Lock is up, you're going to lose everything. Unless you can establish something like Divine Cipher Dragon or Jet Dragon. You have to be very, very careful when you're placing True Light, which is why I don't really want to show it off in a lot of these combos. So, you're going to go Sage here, search for Whelp. You're going to link Sage off for the link 1, grab your Mausoleum, activate your Mausoleum. Mausoleum will dump the Blue-eyes White Dragon. You will Tribute, you summon. Normal your Buster Whelp effect is going to add your Destruction Sword memories. Also, you don't have to tribute the Spirit Blink here to get the Blue Eyes back. If you're afraid of running into a Bystial, then just don't do that, because you're going into a Dragon Link anyway, in this combo specifically. So you're going to go into your Buster Whelp Link. This is going to have the effect to dump a Destruction Sword card from your deck, and then you can summon a Buster Blader monster from your hand. So here you would dump the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, which is part of the reason I run this. You're going to summon your Buster Blader the Destruction Swordsman, and from here you can go Buster Whelp effect, discard the memories, summon itself, and you will be hard making your Buster Dragon Synchro. Then whenever you're comfortable, either you can do it on this turn or your opponent's turn, you can use the memories to banish itself, a dragon, and the Buster Blader monster from grave to fusion summon into your Buster Blader fusion. And now you have the lockup. In your opponent's turn, you can use the Buster Dragon to equip the Destruction Sword to your fusion, but be careful with that, because if your opponent has triple attacks, then that is going to be very rough for you, because now you've just turned their triple attack cards online, and they're probably going to out the board. Now, the strengths and weaknesses of this deck, in particular. I'm going to start with the weaknesses. You run a lot of situational bricks. which I am going to grab all of them here right now. I believe that's everything. If I skimmed through this correctly. And I did. Okay. So you run a lot of situational bricks. You do not want to see Majesty going second, typically. Unless your opponent is in a bad spot, and then seeing Majesty is fine going second. But most of the time, if your opponent has a full board and you draw Majesty for opening hand, you're like, damn, I wish this was literally anything else. You're gonna feel this way about a lot of these cards. For example, opening Mausoleum is bad unless your opponent has a ton of hand traps and you just have enough to push through them with opening Mausoleum. For example, if you make the Spirit Link and they preemptively dump Imperm on it, even though you're not using the effective search, they're going to be doing that to stop your ability to summon Blue Eyes from grave and triggering Maiden. If they Imperm the Sage, and you have a Whelp in your hand, and you make the Spirit, and they just preemptively Veiler, you're just gonna go, okay, activate normal Whelp. Just do that. Also, opening the Mausoleum can help you play through a little bit through Droll, so there are some utilizations there, which is why opening this and Majesty is not as bad. And it's the same thing for True Light. You don't want to see True Light going second. It is good discard fodder though, and typically when I'm drawing an opening hand, in this list in particular, I like to see one brick that I can afford to discard off of wishes, rather than seeing a hand of all good cards and being forced to choose one. Now, I will talk about the stuff that is much, much worse to see, because, see, True Light, Mausoleum, Memories, those have, oh, and Jet, these have utilizations, either being discarded or opening them in certain instances. The cards that do not are usually the two Blue Eyes, the Dragon Buster, as well as the Buster Blader. That is because with the Blue Eyes, really your only big utilization is either revealing it in hand with the trap to pop more, using the link to tribute and summon from hand, or as discard fodder. Which is why people have cut down from 3 to 2, and I've even seen a couple of lists only running 1. The Dragon Buster Destruction Sword card is good if you have everything you need and you're just being greedy for the sake of it. It's really just a win more card. There are some instances where you have the Buster Blader Fusion and you can equip this to it, and when your Buster Dragon is gone, because of the effects of Prologue and you couldn't protect it with, like, say, Cypher Dragon, you're still locking your opponent out of the extra deck, which is nice. However, opening this, and you don't really have a way to discard, just put it in grave with wishes, it's just going to stick in your hand a lot of the time. However, the one card that you really do not want to open is, of course, the Buster Blader. And it is because it turns off Prologue, which is your easy out to your opponent just breaking your board, and you will just have no insurance. Opening this, you're forced to go into a weird line that is susceptible to every hand trap in the game, and also susceptible to every board breaker in the game. So, it's not great. But it is better to have a way to play through opening the one true brick than to have nothing and you're essentially only working with 4 cards in your hand. Now then. The pros. This deck plays through Nibiru better than other variants, aside from the Primite variant. And the reason is because of Prologue. You also, by extension, play through the Triple Tactics cards better because of Prologue. Because Prologue dumps a Buster Blader monster and a Destruction Sword card. In this interaction, you are only using 2 effects. You are using Prologue effect to dump from deck as cost to synchro summon a monster, and you are using the Destruction Sword Memories effect in Grave to fusion summon. These are not monster effects, so your opponent cannot hit you with the tactics cards through this, which is very good. Also, if you get nibbed, your Prologue is still going to give you an end board that is going to force your opponent into disadvantage. Because when you establish the Buster Dragon and the Buster Blader fusion, they cannot activate effects of dragons in their hand, graveyard, on the field, anywhere. And the Buster Dragon changes all monsters they control to dragon. So Bystial's in the hand, gone. Dragon effects in Grave, gone. They normal summon a monster, they try to activate the effect, it's changed to a dragon, gone. You do not get the effect. Very, very, very good. And there is a reason that Primite versions are also running this. They're running 1 Whelp, 1 Prologue, 1 Buster Blader, 1 Memories, so that they can do this. Because this combo genuinely is going to do a lot for you going into decks like Malice. And even going into 𝐒𝐨𝐜𝐢𝐚, because against 𝐒𝐒𝐈, if you just hold the Prologue until after they summon EXT, usually you're fine by establishing this. I digress. We are going to go into another variant of the deck though, and the first thing I'm going to do for you guys here is I'm going to remove cards from the list that you can safely remove in favor of the cards you're going to put in for the next version. Now, if I remember correctly, this is either 40 or 41 cards main deck. So what you can do is you're going to need 9 cards total. So you're going to remove the Buster Blader stuff, and you can either remove a Called By and put an extra card sleeve in, or you can remove the Triple Tactics Talents, or you can remove the Bystial package. Whichever one suits your fancy. Personally, I would just cut a Called By and then run an extra card, so that the non-engine is still intact. And you're going to be replacing these with three stand-up Centurion, a Trudea, an Atri, as well as a Primera, and I will sort of move this stuff out of the way so that you guys can see. You're also going to need a Phalanx, a Wake Up, and an Emblema Oath. Now, for the extra deck, you will be running a Neo Blue-Eyes Ultimate Dragon, a Magistus Chirozzo, a Centurion Auxilla, Centurion Legatia, as well as a Centurion Primus. You can also run a Tyrant Dragon if you want to, and you can also run Red Supernova and or Cosmic Blazar Dragon. If you wanted to cut room for these cards, I would cut probably a Hermetic Spheres. I would probably cut a Lightstorm Dragon, perhaps one Spirit, and then this would round out your Centurion monsters. And then obviously the 2 spaces for the Chirozzo and just whatever else you really want. Oh, and also I guess, not Tyrant, the Neo Blue-Eyes. So this rounds out the bare minimum that you need, cutting these. And you could also theoretically cut the Hot Red. You can still make it with the Crimson. In the Buster Blader version, you're usually making this by normal summoning a light level 1 tuner to synchro into this off of the Buster Dragon, because it leaves the field after your next turn when you've summoned it with Prologue. You could, oh yeah, also you can cut the Whelp. we forgot about Whelp and Extra Deck. So you can cut these, and then you can run the base 3 Centurion synchros, the Chorozo, as well as the Ultimate Dragon, and then you can still fit like Blazar's Supernova in there if you wanted to. So you could do that. Now, I'm going to show the combo for this and why it may be appealing to you, as someone who is trying to figure out which version of Blue Eyes is more appealing to you. So, for example, and I'm going to showcase this purely with Sage because it is, again, the easiest way to showcase this. So, you're going to go in normal Sage, Sage effect, add your Maiden to dump, and you're going to place a True Light. True Light effect is going to set your wishes, and for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to have a card to discard, so you're going to go Wishes effect to discard. This is going to add... You could do another Sage, or you can do like a Veiler or something. Just honestly, whatever you want. I'm going to do another Sage just for the hell of it, because I'm pretty sure the normal summon is not once per turn to add. It is not. Okay. So add another Sage, and then you can add the Blue Eyes spell that summons from deck, which is Roar. So from here, you're going to link off into your Link 1, and do your Mausoleum plays, of course. Mausoleum is going to dump a Blue Eyes. Then you're going to Spirit to Tribute summon, and then Effective Maiden to summon, and this is the part where the combo differs. So, you're going to use Wishes to attach the Neo Blue Eyes to your Blue Eyes, and from here, you're going to send your Fusion and the Maiden to the graveyard to summon out that Chorozo I was talking about earlier. Because its materials require a Fusion, Synchro, XYZ, or Link monster plus a Spellcaster monster, and you can Fusion summon this, or you can Special Summon it by sending the materials you control on the field to the grave. This is a level 4 tuner, by the way, so you can just Synchro these two off into 𝐒𝐤, which is going to fetch your stand-up Centurion. We activate this. From here, you go stand up to discard a card, so I'll just discard another shitty card that's in my hand, I guess, so like I guess Emperor. You're going to place you can place either Primera, Trudea, whichever one you place does change the combo slightly. In this example, I'm going to place Trudea. I'm going to special Trudea effect to place, and then place the Primera from your deck into your spell and trap zone. So from here, you're going to summon the Trudea, or summon the Primera. Primera is going to search for your Wake Up. Another cool thing about this version of the deck is when you're using the Wishes to place the Ultimate Blue Eyes, you can use Wake Up because you have a monster in the back row. It's pretty cool. So here you're going to do Wake Up, and you're going to summon a level... do like a level 4. Yeah, you could just do like a level 4 to go into Primus and then place and do that. So you're going to summon a level 4 token. You're going to Synchro the Primera and the token into Primus. Primus is going to search for your Emblem of Oath. You're going to activate Oath, and this is going to place the Atri from deck, which will then summon itself, and you will draw a card off of it. And from here, you just simply Synchro these two away into... You can do a Crimson Dragon, you can do 𝐒𝐥𝐻𝐢𝐚 to draw a card, I typically go Crimson so that I can go into Cypher Divine Dragon. And from here, oh, and also this was probably important for what I should have said earlier, is if you had kept the Mausoleum up, you could have normaled the Sage and then grabbed another Veiler. And if you run the spell that you search off of Crimson Dragon, you can use it to summon, I believe, a Tuner from Grave, if I recall correctly, or a Synchro Monster. So there are instances where, I think it's specifically a Dragon Synchro Monster, so there are instances where you can revive and then go into a Spirit Dragon or something, which is really nice. Also, because we searched the Roar here, I'm just going to summon another blueeyes. Or you could have summoned Jet if you wanted to summon Jet off of it, but you do get locked into Dragon for the rest of the turn after you do that, from the extra deck at least, so you kind of want to leave your options open just in case. So here you can go in the Spirit Dragon, and if you run the Crimson Dragon spell, then you can, in some instances, go into Double Spirit on this inboard. So from here, you have this, which is Auxilla is going to protect your True Light from card destruction, as well as your stand-up and your Trudea. Your Divine Dragon is going to protect all of your cards from destruction once per turn, or once each per card. Spirit is a Grave Effect Negate, obviously, and the Auxilla is going to place a Atri from Grave. And I do like this list because it allows you to dig for hand traps more, and it gives you that protection that you don't normally have on True Light, which is extraordinary, because that means that your odds of True Light actually being removed from the field and your board being picked apart is much, much harder for the opponent to do now. However, I'm going to go over the positives and negatives of the deck now. Alright, so I think that the negatives are actually pretty self-explanatory, if I'm being honest. Because there are cards that you do not want to see in this version of the deck. Just like with Buster Blader. But with Buster Blader, it is one card exactly that you do not want to see. However, in Centurion, it is more. There is a difference in payoff, though. So out of all the Centurion cards here, you really only want to see Oath and Stand Up, because these allow you to extend through hand traps on your normal blueeyes board. You do not want to see Primera, Atri, Trudea, Wake Up, or Phalanx most of the time. Now, if you don't have a normal summon, obviously Trudea and Primera are very good. If you do have a normal summon, though, you do not want to see these. You want to place these off of Trudea, Oath, Stand Up, so on and so forth. Because the more Centurion cards you open that you can't actively use or discard or place, they're just going to rot in your hand, and then you're just not going to be able to do the full combo. Which sucks. But the trade-off is you have a much higher ceiling. Establishing cards like Red Supernova, putting an Auxilla on the field to protect your True Light. You're getting like 1 to 2 draws every turn because of Atri and Legacia, and you can also use Auxilla to place Primera on back row to protect Auxilla from card destruction. There is so much more nuance and protection that you're getting on your inboard, and the ability to just loop Crimson Dragon every single turn, giving you many, many more ways to deal with interaction from your opponent in the form of Cosmic Blazar, Red Supernova, hell, even just making your Ultimate Spirit Dragon with Crimson, because everything's 12, is just incredible. So, those are the pros and cons. And we are going to move into the last version that I have prepared for you guys today. This is all Centurion stuff. There. Now, this is a little less of a commitment, and to be honest, this version you can run with Centurion stuff in the deck as well, or with the Buster Blader stuff as well, but you will have to cut more non-engine, to be honest, and this is the Bystial engine. It's just going to be 3 Rebellion with either 1 Regained or 1 Etude, and there are differing reasons for running either one. Regained gives you more bodies to put up on your opponent's turn when they summon stuff, and it gives you more draw power to see your non-engine or to see your engine if you don't have it yet. Etude allows you to make 3 Spirit Dragons. And it also is good for various decks like Orcust or just grave-heavy decks that need to use materials and put them in the graveyard. So for example, like if you have a Rebellion with a 2-up, and your opponent goes to Link Summon, then that monster is going to get banished. If they go to Fusion Summon, the monsters they use to fuse are going to get banished. But it also has the other effect that allows you to Synchro Summon on your opponent's turn using a monster including a Dragon-type monster. So if you're going to run the Bystial stuff, I do recommend running a minimal Buster Blader package, because the Bystial Rebellion on its own doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't give you an inboard in Blue Eyes. You kind of have to pair it with cards to do stuff. Because you're gonna go Rebellion, grab Magnamut, you have Magnamut in your hand now, and you're like, you're gonna have to banish this Rebellion or normal this Veiler to do this. And all that's gonna give you is a Regained on your back row. So you really only pair this with your end board, or use it as hand trap bait. So, to be honest, in my version of the list, I was running either Regained or Etude with the 3 Rebellion, and I was running 1 Whelp, 1 Memories, 1 Prologue, and 1 Blader. Because that gives you 4 spaces here in a 40 or 41 card list to run your 3 Rebellion with either 1 Regained or 1 Etude, and you still have access to all of your Buster Blader engine, which you might think to yourself, oh, but 1 Whelp feels pretty bad. It really doesn't, because you have more than enough ways to get to it. I mean, you have 3 Wishes, you have 3 Sage, you have 3 Maiden. Maiden gets you to True Light, which gets you to Wishes. Sage gets you to Maiden, which gets you to True Light, which gets you to Wishes. The deck is very good at getting everything you need very consistently. And so, because of that, you might feel like you want to ease up on the Buster Blader engine and go for a Bystial engine, which allows you to do different stuff for different matchups. Like if you run Etude and you're playing against Orcust, the stuff they're going to be linking off is going to get banished. If you play against Branded, the stuff they're going to be fusing into is going to get banished. Or the stuff that they're fusing is going to get banished. If you're running Regained, your opponent Bystials your Blue Eyes, you shuffle it back, you draw a card. Your opponent summons a card, you summon a Rebellion or a Magnamut or something. And then you're drawing into non-engine, you're drawing into engine, it gives you more lines to go into, and Rebellion's a level 8, so theoretically you can go summon Rebellion, normal summon a tuner, make Spirit Dragon, things like that. So to give you an idea of what this would look like, let's say you have a Rebellion and a Sage. Alright. You're gonna start off with Sage, or you can start off with the 𝐒𝐿𝐢𝐴n. The order is kind of strange because if your opponent has Droll and they draw you on Sage, it's much better to get Drolled on Sage. If you 𝐒𝐿𝐢𝐴n and they draw you on 𝐒𝐿𝐢𝐴n, that feels horrible. If they Ash 𝐒𝐿𝐢𝐴n, you're cooking, you just go normal Sage. If they Ash Sage, that feels pretty bad. But here you're gonna go for Maiden of White. You're gonna just do the normal combo here, so Maiden effect, place your True Light, True Light effect, place Wishes, and then Wishes is just gonna discard a random card, so we're gonna discard this Emperor here. This is going to get you to that Buster Whelp, as well as either Majesty or Roar. I like to go into Roar, mostly because I like putting the additional bodies up on the board, because the more Spirit Dragons you have, the easier it is to go into Crimson and then do that sort of stuff. And it also just acts as an extender, so if you get nibbed, then you can just go Roar, summon a thing, continue playing. So from here, you're going to link off into your Spirit Link 1. This is going to get you the Mausoleum. Mausoleum will dump a Blue-Eyes from deck. Spirit will tribute to summon Blue-Eyes. Maiden will summon itself. And from here, you can go 𝐒𝐿𝐴N effect. Discard. Add your Magnemite. And you can really just do this whenever. Like, past this point, you're probably fine to do it. So, you have a couple of options here, alright? You can go Bahamut or Magnemite to banish Sage from grave if you want to. Summon itself, Sage or Magnemite effect. Then 𝐒𝐿𝐴N effect, attribute it, summon itself. And this is where the differing lines come into play. If you place Regained, then you might be more inclined to go into SP if you know that your hand has a couple hand traps and you want to see what you draw. If you do not want to do that, you just make the normal board, and then this is kind of just there for your opponent's turn. However, if you place Etude, which is what I'm going to showcase here, if you place Etude, I'm going to show you some cool stuff. Alright, so let's say you sync these two off. Go in the Spirit. Now, you're going to normal the Whelp. You're going to go Whelp effect. Add Prologue. And also, honestly, you could just Roar here for the Jet. Not here, but when you had the vanilla Blue-Eyes out, you could just Roar for the Jet there before you make that Spirit. Because something's going to be stuck on end board. So, you're going to synchro these two out for another Spirit. And here you're just going to set your Prologue. Now, this is pretty crazy, right? You're going to go in phase, you're going to search for, like, Druid's Worm or something. And then you're going to pass turn. On your opponent's turn, you can actually use the True Light here to summon Blue-Eyes from grave, which is going to summon Maiden from grave on a separate chain. And then from here, you can use Etude to synchro summon these two out into another Spirit. Or you could do like Lightstorm Dragon or the Moonlight Dragon or whatever you want, really. So, in this example, I'm just going to make the Spirit Dragon. And then, afterwards, you can use Prologue to dump your Buster Blader stuff. So you dump the Buster Blader and Memories, and then you chain Memories to banish the Buster Blader and a Dragon from grave. You usually do the Whelp. This is going to give you your Buster Dragon and your Fusion. And this is your inboard. Pretty crazy, right? The only downside is the Attune just gives you another brick in the deck, which is fine. I mean, you can always discard it if you feel like you don't need it, and it just makes it really easy to side out. When you're going into game 2 and 3, you can just side out the 𝐒𝐿𝐢𝐴ns and the Attune into stuff, which is nice. And because you have so many Spirit Dragons here, you can actually just use them to go into Ultimate and then go into Crimson. Crimson tag out to go into Cypher. And now they just can't out this, and the Cypher is also going to protect your Buster Dragon on your next turn during the end phase from being destroyed. Which is very, very nice. So, now that I have showcased that, pros and cons. Obviously the con is you're not running as much non-engine as the other versions, or as the Perfs version, which is the Buster Blader version. You're running the most non-engine in that version, which is good. And another downside is this does play in the nib harder. If your opponent just holds the nib until the very last second, that Attune is dead. And if you open the Attune and you don't have your Bystial stuff, then it's kind of rough because you're going to be sitting there like, dang, I kind of wish this was a normal summon or something. Or I wish this was literally anything else. Because by cutting down on the whelps, you are reducing consistency, even though it is easy to get to whelp. Running 2 less of whelp with the same amount of bricks is not ideal. But the 𝐒𝐿𝐢𝐴N does give you interesting ways to make better and bigger boards, and also put up stuff that your opponent will have to worry about eventually. Like, for example, if you establish Regained against Malice, well, now they're going to be worried about you drawing stuff and shuffling back their materials and all kinds of stuff like that. If you establish Attune against Bystial, well, now they're going to be like, okay, well, they're going to make another Synchro on my turn. Some of the stuff that I might use for Mitsurugi combo is going to get banished. If I link summon, then those materials are also going to get banished. Things like that. Now, what do I think is the better version? To be honest, I think it kind of just depends on your locals. If you are playing against a lot of decks at your locals that don't really run a whole lot of non-engine, they don't run a whole lot of hand traps, they're running more board breakers and stuff, the Centurion version or the Buster Blader version might be more up your alley. If your locals is running stuff that is more grave heavy, or they rely on fusion summoning a lot, or synchro summoning, or things like that, then maybe the Bystial version will be more your style, because placing a Attune and making a third spirit, while also having a pseudo floodgate up, is pretty nice. If you're playing against a lot of Malice, Regained is good against that matchup. However, I do think that the Buster Blader engine is better against Malice than the Bystial stuff. Which you probably would run both if you can. If you wanted to run a more pure variant, my advice to you would be just stacking your main deck. Like, you want to run in pure 3 Kaiser Seahorse, 3 Sage, 3 Maiden. You want to run the 2 triple attack, a Called By. You probably want to run Bystials if you have them. If you don't have Bystials, Nibiru is fine. Just fill your main deck out with stuff to interact with your opponent. Because in the Buster Blader version, if you don't have the Buster Blader stuff, let's say you don't have either of these 3 decks. you're gonna have 9 spaces. 8 to 9 spaces to put in whatever the hell you need to. Those 9 spaces, 3 of them can be Kaiser Seahorse. The other 6 can be non-engine in the form of either consistency, like Pot of Prosperity. They can be in the form of extension, like Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons. They can be in the form of hand traps. You can run Mourner, you can run Ghost Ogre, you can run things like that. This deck operates very, very similarly to decks like Centurion, wherein your initial push, if it gets hand-trapped, you do run a lot of non-engine, and you're kind of banking on that non-engine to keep you from dying if your initial play is stopped and you don't have the extender you need. Like, if you open Sage and Maiden, most of the times you're fine. And that is the same exact thing as opening, like, Primera with Oath when you're playing Centurion. Or if you're playing Marincess, opening something like Seahorse and Blue Tang. It's just kind of the curse of mid-range, you know? Although Centurion leans a little more into combo, but it also would just... It does combo stuff, but it ends on more mid-range boards. So, I do hope that this helped you with whatever sort of Blue Eyes deck that you might want to make. This has kind of been in the making for a while now. I just haven't had everything until now. And there is one interesting thing as well, one final interesting thing about the Bystial list that I want to share. You can run the Bystial stuff with the Centurion engine, and it does give you more draws more consistently, but it also allows you to go into Chaos Angel, Dissipator, and you can also go into Scarlet Red to board wipe your opponent. The issue is your extra deck becomes extremely tight the more engines that you're putting in the list. And sometimes you're going to see stuff that is not going to be super optimal, like you're going to see a Primera, a Sage, a Lubellion. You're just going to see all kinds of different stuff with your hand, and you're going to be like, okay, this isn't optimal because if I get trolled on this, then I can't do this. If I get nibbed here, then I just lose. Stuff like that, and it's kind of things that you have to think about when you're building this list is, what should I be preparing for? Is my locals running a lot of Nibiru in their deck? Then maybe I should run the Buster Blader stuff. Are my locals not running a whole lot of hand traps? Well, if they're not running a whole lot of hand traps, then perhaps I should just go hog wild and play the Centurion stuff. If my locals is playing a lot of board breakers, then maybe a mixture of the Buster Blader engine and the Centurion stuff would be more beneficial for me. It's just stuff you gotta think about when you're testing this. And of course, if you have the Primite stuff, honestly, I think the best version of this deck is just going to be Primite with a small Buster Blader engine. Just because it's Primite and the Buster Blader engine gives you insurance in case your initial push is stopped or if they break through the initial board. So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to subscribe, drop a like, or a dislike if you didn't like it. Give me some feedback in the comments below, and I will catch you guys later, alright?